Hi there, I'm Jonny Lieberman.
And I'm Jethro Bovingdon from MotorTrend's Head-to-Head show.
We hope you enjoy this free episode. And if you do, click the link below.
There are thousands of hours of your favorite MotorTrend shows just a click away.
Please enjoy this one. Hi there! This is the Maserati Levante, the first ever SUV from the famed Italian race car maker. Now I know what you're thinking. Porsche, the famed German race car maker, they did the same thing a decade ago with the Cayenne. And the Cayenne has sold so well and made Porsche so much money that the 911 is better than ever. In fact, a GT2 RS, a 911 variant, just set the production car lap record on the Nürburgring. Can the Levante do the same thing for Maserati? There's only one way to find out. Let me tell you a story. About 18 months ago, Maserati rang me up and said, hey, why don't you come out to Italy and drive our new SUV, the Levante? And I said, sure, because, well, A, the food in Bologna, but B, I was actually curious, how's this thing gonna be? Keeping in mind, at the time, remember, people thought it was gonna be based on the Jeep Grand Cherokee and be called the Kubang. You know, we knew they changed the name to Levante, and yeah, the Grand Cherokee is a great SUV, and it shares a platform with the Mercedes GLE, but they're trucks, right? They're not really Maseratis. And I had driven the Ghibli, which, you know, I've driven the Ghibli. So I was expecting nothing. Like literally just thought it was gonna be a nothing with a Maserati badge. And we get out there, and within 10 minutes of driving the car, I'm doing about 170 miles an hour on the Autostrada. This thing is rock solid. Then Maserati takes us to the Bolocco Proving Ground, and we're whipping around a racetrack, and the car feels great. Then they take us to like an off-road course they use to test tanks for the Italian army, and the Levante did great. So, you know, I was like, hey, this is one of the biggest surprises of any vehicle I've driven in quite a while. But, you know, you get caught up in the romance of the launch and the delicious food in Italy, and, you know, maybe the car's not as good as I remember. Well, let's talk about what it is and why it's so much better than the Ghibli that it's based on. So they did a lot of engineering work to turn the Ghibli into the Levante. For one thing, the body in white, they claim, is about 330 pounds lighter, plus 20% stiffer, which is important because, you know, the Ghibli, it's an okay sedan, but it's not the world's greatest sports sedan. They also used a lot of aluminum in the Levante to try and keep the weight down. The doors are aluminum, the shock towers are aluminum, and the front subframe's aluminum. Still, it is a big SUV, so it weighs just under 5,000 pounds. I think what a lot of people don't get about the Levante is how large this thing is. A lot of people are under the mistaken impression that this truck has anything to do with the Alfa Romeo Stelvio. It doesn't. This is based on the Ghibli platform, whereas the Stelvio is based on the Giorgio platform that sits underneath the Giulia. This is much larger. Remember, this is Ghibli based, and the Ghibli competes with the Mercedes E-Class and the BMW 5 Series, and the Levante really competes with the Porsche Cayenne, only it's bigger. This wheelbase is 3 inches longer than a BMW X5, and over 4 inches longer than a Porsche Cayenne. It's a big truck. Powering this big truck is a 3-liter twin-turbo V6 that makes 424 horsepower and 428 pound-feet of torque. All that power is sent to a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, and then it goes to the all-wheel drive system, which doles the power out through a very central torsion unit. Now what's cool is it can do straight 50-50, 50% of the torque to the front wheels, 50% of the torque to the rear wheels, but it doesn't unless it needs it. This car tries to default actually to 100% rear wheel drive. Most of the time it's about 80-20, although if you're in sport mode, it tries to be 90-10. And you can feel that it's rear wheel drive, which is pretty unique for an SUV. Plus, I've got these great paddle shifters, transmission, they've done a nice job programming it. And performance-wise, for a 5,000-pound rig, this thing is no slouch. 0 to 60, we're talking 4.9 seconds, quarter mile, 13 and a half at 122 miles an hour. First of all, you're seduced by the sound this thing makes. When you put it in sports mode, some exhaust baffle somewhere opens up and it's like, only the Italians can make a V6 sound good. I mean, just listen to this.
One-stop shop for car lovers. MotorTrend, the ultimate automotive streaming service.
It's not about miles per gallon, it's about miles per gallon.
Get the entire MotorTrend library, including every episode of Roadkill and Roadkill Garage, Dirt Every Day, Head to Head, Throttle Out, and World's Greatest Drag Race.
Why do we do it? Because we can.
But now, there's a whole new library of car shows available. Watch Bitchin' Rides, catch up on old episodes of Overhauling or American Chopper, and see the latest Diesel Brothers and Wheeler Dealers episodes.
You know what?
There's even live racing and auctions. If you love automotive, there's only one place to stream. Start your free trial today and get MotorTrend on any of your favorite devices.
Most impressively, braking. From 60 miles an hour, this sucker will stop in 105 feet, which is just really good. And then we get to our figure eight course, and so in terms of handling, this thing can do the figure eight in 25.5 seconds, which puts it in pretty good company. Think about it. That's like a Volvo V60 Polestar, that's like Infiniti Q60S. So yeah, look, it's not a sports car. It's a big SUV, but it handles really well. If I have any complaints about how this thing handles, it's the front end. Look, there's plenty of grip, plenty of bite, but there's a reason that sports cars don't use air suspension. It's just not stiff enough. The back feels nice and planted. The front, though, just feels kind of shaky and it's moving around. You've got double A-arms up front, just like, a Miata, 5-link rear end, just like a Miata. So they put all this sporty stuff in here. It's just that the air dampers, they just don't give you the confidence of the steel springs, but everything works. It works really well. And then there's the brake pedal. Like the first 20% of the pedal travel is just kind of gum. Once you get through that, you get a lot of stopping power. This thing really just comes to a halt. Also, this car is spec'd in the worst way possible. Silver on the outside with a black interior. Ugh. When I was in Italy, I drove one. It was this gorgeous blue, this sparkly, nice metallic blue, and it had a beautiful brown leather and silk interior. Silk, you say? Well, back in the day, if you were a wealthy person, back in the 20s, you had a landaulet. So the front cabin was exposed to the elements, and that's where your driver sat on leather because it was going to rain and leather was waterproof. Meanwhile, you were ensconced in the back in the finest silks because silk is more luxurious than leather. The silks and Maseratis, they break up the tyranny of leather like nothing else. And I wish this car was spec'd this way. It isn't, but if you're going to buy one, get the silk. So yeah, you know what? Memory served me correctly. This is as good as I remember it up here in the canyons. But you remember that tank course I was talking about? Just wait until you see what this thing can do off-road. right, so taking a Maserati off-road. And you're probably thinking to yourself, who would ever take a Maserati off-road? Pretty much the same guy that would wear this shirt to go off-roading. In other words, nobody. And I remember, you know, the Maserati, they said, well, we think less than 1% of our customers will take the Levante off-road. And I think at the time I said something like, well, you know, 0's a percent. And I remember having dinner with the then CEO of Maserati, and I said, come on, who's going to take these things off-road? And he, you know, after a few glasses of wine said, you know, nobody's going to take this truck off-road. However, our customers, they will love knowing that they're able to. And it's sort of like top speed in a hypercar, right? You can't go 250 miles an hour. There's no road in the world long enough. It's just not going to ever happen. But you buy the car because you know in the back of your head, you could go 250 if the circumstances were right. The ingredient that makes the whole truck tick is the air suspension, right? So when we're in sport mode, the air suspension, it lowers the car down about an inch. Better aerodynamics, less suspension travel, it makes the car sportier. When we're in off-road mode, which you activate just by hitting this button here, it jacks the car up about 1.5 inches. And if there's a really serious obstacle, you can hit the air suspension switch up once and it'll raise it another 1/2 inch. So you get some pretty good ground clearance, and then that gives you some good wheel articulation. And then you've got the torque distribution, which right now we're locked in 50-50, and that's controlled by the center torsion unit. And then you've got some, frankly, fancy off-road software, just like a Land Rover. So when one wheel begins to lose traction, the anti-lock brake system locks that wheel up and sends power to the wheels that do have traction. Not that you'll ever need it, but it's nice to know it's there if you do.
The engine's just a marvel of modern engineering.
Let's go and see what these things can do.
Let's go find out. What is it like to have 700 horses under your right foot?
Every car is a potential record breaker.
Ignition, every episode now streaming on the MotorTrend app. Start your free trial today and get MotorTrend on any of your favorite devices.
Once again, I'm surprised because I remember when they put us on that tank course in Italy, I was like, no way, there's no way that a Maserati SUV can do anything, let alone this. And I mean, look, we're at probably, I don't know, 40-degree angle right here, no problem running over ruts. And we were out here with a Ranger in an F-150, and he was going real slow and worrying about stuff. And this, it's quiet. We've got the double pane window, and I'm worried about nothing. This thing just goes and goes and goes. We could put a much harder core tire on this thing that would give us more capability, but really the limiting factor, in my mind at least, because I don't want to make the phone call, is I don't want to bash this front end on anything. So while it looks pretty good, the design of this car holds it back off-road. But again, you're never gonna take the Levante off-road. So why am I doing this? Because I can. They really spent a lot of time developing the Levante. Remember, I was talking with the chief engineer, and he was saying they logged 5 million kilometers developing this. That's about 3 million miles. And a lot of that was done in the dirt. And, you know, and I asked him, I go, you know, why did you make it as good as it is? You know, what was the reason? He just said, we wanted to build a good vehicle. We're entering a new segment, and we wanted to enter at the top. And they did. SUVs are inherently compromised vehicles, right? But they're kind of like Swiss Army knives. Like, you know, it's not the greatest knife, but it gives you so many options. So if I need to take 5 people and their luggage and travel at 150 miles an hour, this car can do it. But then this same car can take those same 5 people and go somewhere pretty remote. Yeah, there's lots of luxury sedans that can do the 150 mile an hour trick. 0 of them can go off-roading at a place like this. And as we saw, it's a pretty good handler too. So while an SUV is an inherent compromise, the Levante is as good as anything out there. I mean, if you're thinking about a Porsche Cayenne and 4 of your neighbors have them, boy, this is a pretty slick alternative. I think my big takeaway with the Levante is, surprise, it's really good. My initial expectation with this truck was nothing. I just thought it would be nothing. And then my initial impression was, wow, this is a great SUV. And now after my second go around, I think I'm even more impressed because we really got to beat on it for a sustained period of time, and the Levante loved it. I mean, hats off to Maserati. It didn't need to be this good, but it is.